بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. So now today we will discuss with whatever we have left in the last lecture. Last time we did characteristics of languages, and now we will do the next topic, that is dimensions of communication. I hope you all got what I told you till now. So let's begin with this new topic. Let's see. Dimensions of communication, that means we know that dimensions means when things are have some length, breadth, and it has a wide area. Okay, so communication have different wide areas. These dimensions are actually intrapersonal, interpersonal, extrapersonal, organizational, and mass communication. Okay, so let's begin with intrapersonal. What is intrapersonal type of communication? Interpersonal type of communication is that in which we actually communicate with ourselves only. That means in this kind of communication there is only one person. He is only the sender and he is the receiver. Okay, that means he will send the message encoding in an encoded way, and he will himself decode the message and send the feedback. So that is called intrapersonal communication. That means, suppose for example, if I am saying, if you touch something which is very hot, so what happens? You send that message to your brain that yes, this thing is hot, something you touch. Your brain will decode that message. Okay, this thing is hot, that means the message is sent by your own, you can say by your own way of thinking. Okay, that this is hot, and the brain absorbs it, he takes it, he decodes it, and then what message he sends? He sends the feedback in the form, okay, take your hand out from there. Okay, so this is what the intrapersonal message calls. Maybe the inner ideas what you are thinking about others to do, that comes under intrapersonal type of communication. Next is interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is the same thing. That means when communication is done with two people, first is sender, the second one is receiver, and that is called interpersonal type of communication. Interpersonal communication when done between two people, that is interpersonal communication, and this type of communication may be a formal one, maybe an informal one. Okay, that means they are again subdivided into two parts, formal, informal. Formal means when you are talking to your subordinates, when you are talking to your boss, that comes under formal. When you are talking to your teacher. And informal communication means when you are talking to your friends, when you are talking to your family, that comes under informal kind of communication. Now comes to next, that is extrapersonal communication. Extrapersonal communication means when there is a communication between human beings and non-human beings. Okay, then that comes under the topic extrapersonal communication. Okay, that means you can say that communication between a person and an animal is also comes under this extrapersonal communication. When you are dealing with your dog, when you are dealing with any of your pet, then that particular kind of communication comes on extrapersonal. Now how you get the feedback in that case? Feedback is definitely the way you talk and the way your pet you can say reflect himself in such a manner, and that is nothing but the feedback only. If your pet is responding to what you are saying, then that is the feedback of that particular pet. Okay, so it is an extrapersonal kind of communication. Now comes to organizational communication. Organizational communication, here it is further subdivided into two parts, that is called internal communication and external communication. First of all, organizational communication is definitely in case of organization, that means whatever the communication is going on in an organization, that may be factory and industry, that may be an office. Okay, so when you are communicating with your peers, when you are communicating with your subordinates, with your colleagues, with your boss, that comes under organizational. But again, if I am saying that you are communicating with the person, the second person, then it may be an interpersonal communication also. So in case of organizational communication, the communication that you will do with your peers is not directly. There are various methods, like it may be in the form of notices, mails, that comes under organizational communication. Okay, so that means what? You are communicating with your seniors, you are communicating with your colleagues, you are communicating with your juniors in an organization, yani in a particular area, in an office, with the help of some medium. Okay, that may be a mail, that may be a notice, that may be something else, maybe a telephonic conversation. That comes under organizational communication. And the division in case of organizational communication, that means internal and external division. That shows that internal means the same kind of communication, that means when you are using some medium of communication to talk to your peers within the office, then that is called internal communication. The whole communication is going on within the organization only. Whereas in case of external communication, when you are talking to your peers, when you are talking to someone who actually works in the other organization, that means you can say that communication between your company and to the client, that comes under external communication. Okay, so this is actually what external communication is. Okay, last point is mass communication. You all must have heard about this word, mass communication. Mass communication means when you are communicating with a mob, you are communicating with a crowd. That means when there are various number of people and you are communicating with them. Okay, that is called mass communication. Mass itself means number of people. When there are more than one and more than two number of people, then they comes under mass communication. Okay, now in this particular mass communication, journalism comes, like press is there. Okay, the news readers, they actually deal with the mass communication. Okay, so this completes the dimensions of the communication. Let's come to the next, that is reading comprehension. Why reading comprehension? See, the slide that you are seeing here, it consists of two questions. First is, how does reading comprehension develop? Okay, and second is, why is reading comprehension so important? Okay, so first of all, how does reading comprehension develop? See, remember one thing, it develops as you grow up. That means it develops day by day. Reading comprehension is a lifelong process. Okay, so it will not come within a day. So reading comprehension means you are reading something, you are getting the knowledge from that. That knowledge may be of any kind. Okay, so it develops one after the other, every day it develops. Okay, so that is how a reading comprehension develops. See, any child who is in an elementary class, that means maybe an LKG, UKG, that particular child will also be able to read his or her books. But that doesn't mean that he will be able to tackle all the problems which will come in his or her life every time. No, reading comprehension, you have to keep on reading different things, different maybe novels, short stories, newspapers, magazines. So you have to keep on reading all these things to develop yourself. That is the most important thing, and this is how the reading comprehension develop day by day, year by year. Okay, second question here is, why is reading comprehension so important? Definitely it is very important, because if you will not read those comprehensions, that means if you are not in the habit of reading anything, see, you are lacking something very much in your life. I must say, keep an habit of reading one or the other thing, whichever you like, maybe of your any choice, but keep on reading. Because somewhere, if you are reading, suppose if you are reading the newspaper, you are getting the knowledge of the whatever is going on around your world, all over the world, whatever is going on, you come to know. If you are reading any you can say stories, some short stories or novels, at least you are coming across some emotions, you are coming across some kind of different things, whatever you can say, this may be a new experience in your life. So you are actually experiencing a different world if you are reading the novels and the magazines. Somewhere, somehow you are getting the knowledge. Okay, So this is why I'm saying reading comprehension is definitely important for any person. Now read comprehensions means if you are in the habit of reading, that does not only mean that reading novels, reading books, reading some short stories or reading newspaper. It may be something other than that also. If you are in the habit of reading, you will come to know across many kinds of words. You will come to know about variety of, you can say, maybe the synonyms of the other words. That's why also it is important. Just for example, if I am saying, if you read the electricity bill that is coming to your home, do you have any idea what they actually write? No, sometimes you don't even read, but just go one by one and you will come to know. So that is why reading comprehension is said that it is important, because at least we should be aware of these small things, how anyone writes a particular thing, maybe an electricity bill, maybe an housing bill, what comes under that. Have you ever read any kind of housing agreement? No, you must have not. Go try to read. You may come across many things, because they have a totally different words, okay, that the words that you use in your formal or informal languages, no, they have a different way of writing, and you should be aware of all these things. So that is why this is also important, and reading comprehension is definitely important, because you should be aware of all these things. Clear? Now next comes to technical writing. Technical writing, here I am just giving you 2 points of technical writing. The first one is use of technical writing, and the second one is tips for good writing. Okay, now what is all about technical writing? First of all, the uses of technical writing. See, I already told you that technical writing is very important. Okay, why it is important? Can anyone tell me? You have to think about it, that what is actually the use of technical writing. Definitely, if you are doing something, every time you cannot write anything in a informal way or maybe in a formal way. You have to write few things which come across in your life, and that should have some technical meaning, okay. So that is why technical writings have different uses, okay, maybe in your life or maybe in some other things. Tips of technical writing, as I already given you lots of tips of technical writing, how to write anything which is technical in nature. You have to write it in a short sentence. See, redundancy means if you are doing something like if you are taking, it's not like repetition, it is like you are actually trying to cope up with different words, and you are just adding those words in the sentences. So you have to avoid all these things also. No negative construction, this is the most important things. Normally, maybe in case of writing a sentence, or maybe when we speak, sometimes what we do, we take the things in a negative way, okay. That means you have to be very clear that if you are speaking something or if you are writing something, that should be in a positive way. Maybe something negative you have to write, but that's too in a positive way. So always remember, you have to avoid these negative constructions. Okay, next is, let's come to paragraph development and coherence in technical written communication. What is paragraph and how to develop a paragraph? That means how to increase a paragraph, how to write a paragraph, okay. Paragraph is actually a combination of 7 to 8 sentences, you can say. That means when you are writing sentences, then around 7 to 8 sentences makes a paragraph. Then first paragraph, you can write something in the second paragraph, and the paragraph develops in such a way, okay. You have to be very clear with what you are writing in the paragraph. For example, if in the first paragraph you have written the introduction about something, then definitely in case of technical writing I am talking about, that if in the first paragraph you have written the introduction, then definitely in the second paragraph you will write about the history or the background of your report, okay. Then in the third paragraph you will write about the data, the languages that you have, the data that you have, the ideas that you have to write about this, okay. Then in the next paragraph you will write about the result, what you result you obtain from those data, from those ideas, whatever you have in your mind. And then in the last paragraph you will conclude all the things. Okay, so this is the way a paragraph develop, one by one, another by another. Make sure when you are writing a paragraph, the first paragraph must be correlated to the second paragraph, and second paragraph must be correlated to the next paragraph. Okay, that is the third one, and the process goes on. That means this thing will go on one by one, one by one. So you have to keep all these points in mind when you are writing a paragraph. That is how a paragraph develop. Okay. Coherence in technical written communication. Coherence means consistency. Okay, that means how much consistent your writing you are doing. The same thing that I told in paragraph, that you have to move one by one, and every sentence should be moved one by one. Then only you can say that your written communication is actually you can say it is consistent. Means something which should be look, first of all it should send an impression to the reader. Okay, and second thing is that it should be in such a manner that it should be linked to from one point to the other point. Okay, so this is what called about coherence in technical written communication. There should be some consistency, and many points are there which brings the consistency in the technical written communications. Okay, various methods of paragraph development. When you are writing a paragraph, then how to write a paragraph is also the most important thing. So here we have defined a different ways of writing a paragraph. Okay, these methods of writing any paragraph are inductive, deductive, in chronological way, in spatial way, linear, and interrupted way. Okay, these are the different methods of writing a paragraph, or maybe developing a paragraph. Now first of all, what is inductive way of, what is the inductive method of developing a paragraph? Inductive method means you have the explanations, you have the ideas, you have the data, you have some facts. Okay, so when you are writing a paragraph, whomsoever is the writer first writes, gives the data, facts, the ideas, the explanations, everything, and then finally comes to the conclusion. That is called inductive method. Okay, next comes to deductive method. Deductive method is just the opposite of inductive method. That means in this case the writer will first give the conclusion, the result, and then he will explain the result with the help of the facts, ideas, data, explanation, whatever is there. Okay, so he go in a totally different manner. That means he will go in a different way. Inductive method, first you have to give the facts and ideas, and then you will go to the conclusion. Deductive method, first you will give the conclusion, the result, and then you will tell how the result came with the help of facts, ideas, explanations, whatever you have. Okay, so this is the basic difference. Chronological method. Chronological method means something which goes one by one. What happened at this time, what will going to be happening the next time, what happened in the other time. That means from one time to another, it should go in a chronological way. Okay, one by another. Normally these kind of writings happens in when in the offices there is some meeting and we make the minutes of the meetings. Then this kind of writing, paragraph writing is there. They write from the beginning of the meeting, from where the meeting started, who joined the meeting, what are the points that were discussed in the meeting, what were the points that were kept in the meeting, and the final result what came, and according to that particular meeting we have obtained this conclusion. So this is how these things are made. Normally in case of medical field also we use this chronological method. That means when a patient is entered in the hospital, when he is admitted in the hospital, then the persons around him, they take a quick look of how he is progressing, that at this particular time the person was at this particular situation, what happened in the next minute, which medicine was given in the other time, and what was the effect of the medicine, and accordingly they write all the things. So these types of methods are mainly used in technical fields only. Let's comes to the next one, that is spatial method. Spatial word came from space, and make sure This space does not related, is definitely not related to solar system. Space means around you. Okay, the area that is around you, that is called space. So spatial method means when you are writing a paragraph and in that particular paragraph you are dealing with some particular area, then that comes under spatial method. For example, I say census. When we do census, we actually deal with different kinds of data, and when we write those data, then what we do, we take the data of particular area. It may be of your city, it may be of your state, it may be of country, and maybe of world. Okay, so one by one you can go to any from this data to this, from this data to this. Okay, so this is the way you have to do in case of spatial method. We deals with data of a particular area. Okay, as I told, for example, census is there, we write about census, and there are many others. For example, suppose you are talking about the data of the electricity consumed in your area. That area may be your city, and you can compare it with the other cities also. That comes under spatial method. Next is linear method. Linear method means when you are writing a paragraph in point wise, one by one, and first, then second, then third, and in linear way. Linear means in line, one single line, that means one by another you keep on writing a paragraph. Okay, the methods that I told you till now, that is starting from inductive to linear, these methods are actually used in technical writing also. But the last one, that is the interrupted method, is definitely not the part of technical writing. Okay, it is only the part of, you can say, general writing. This method is called interrupted method. Interrupted method means there is no sequence of writing anything. Normally we can say in stories or in movies and in you can say novels, in any kind of documents. Interrupted method shows that suppose a writer has written something which is going on in the present, and suddenly he moves with his, of course, different kinds of words which are expressive in nature, which are very impressive also, and with those words he goes directly back to the past. Okay, and may be possible from that past he directly moves to the future, what will going to be happen in the future. So that is called interrupted method. Interrupted method, anything will come in between without any sequence. Okay, so this is called interrupted method. Next comes, let's see, devices for developing a paragraph. The most important devices for developing a paragraph are these three devices. The first one is unity, the second one is coherence, and the third one is emphasis. Okay, these are the three devices which actually makes your paragraph look beautiful and actually develop the paragraph in a very proper way. Unity means the sentences that you are writing must be united in a way, as I already told you in this particular video only, that united way means they must be connected one after the other. Okay, so all these points like inductive, deductive, chronological space, question to answer, enumeration, these are actually we already discussed right now. So unity means if you use all these methods, inductive, deductive, chronological, spatial, then only your paragraph seems to be like in a united way. Okay, so these are the main devices. Coherence, we have already discussed that coherence means consistency should be there in your sentences, and that consistency comes from these points like pronouns should be there or not. Okay, repetition, there should be repetition or not. You have to decide that whether a particular paragraph needs the repetition or not. Synonyms, the words that you are using, or maybe the synonym makes it more beautiful sometimes, make sure this thing. Then connectives definitely it is important for all the paragraph writing. Okay, and development of paragraph, this connective means it should be connected in a proper way. Okay, now emphasis means when you are writing a paragraph, how big impression it leaves on the reader. So that is also most important thing. that in case of emphasis means where you have to emphasize so that it leaves an impression on the reader. When you are writing a paragraph, if you are giving some data, if you are giving some facts, if you are giving some ideas, then definitely those facts, those ideas and those data must have some points. That means there are some things which are more preferable than other words. So you have to emphasize on those particular points. That may be in the form of position, and you have to emphasize on a particular position. That may be in the form of sentence structure. Okay, so how to emphasize on particular things so that it leaves a lifelong impression on a reader. That is also the most important thing. If you use all the 3 points, all these 3 tools, definitely your paragraph writing will become more beautiful. Now let's comes to flow of communication. How you communicate with any person, that is also most important. Let's see, different flow of communications here are downward, upward, lateral, horizontal, that is then diagonal and grapevine. First of all, let's come to diagonal communication. Diagonal communication says that when your boss, when your senior is talking to you, when the teacher is talking to a student, that is called downward communication. That means going this way. Okay, so downward communication means when your faculty, when your boss is talking to your you, that means boss means when a senior manager is talking to his subordinates, then that is called downward communication. From higher authority to lower authority, if a communication is going on, then that is called downward communication. Upward communication is just opposite to downward communication. That means when excuse me, when the person is talking to his senior, then that is called upward communication. Okay, then here comes the lateral communication, which is also called as horizontal communication. Now horizontal is this, so that means what? No downward, no upward. Horizontal communication when you are talking to your colleague. Okay, when you are talking to your friend, a friend is talking to another friend, that is called horizontal communication. That means at the same level. Remember this thing. Diagonal communication. Now see, this is upward, this is downward, okay, this is horizontal, and what is this? From this point to this, if you are going in a different way, that is called diagonal communication. So diagonal communication, you are dealing with whom? The boss of one organization is dealing with the, you can say, workers of the other organization. That comes under diagonal communication. Okay, diagonal communication also includes if the manager of this organization is talking to the manager of some other organization, and the workers, especially if I'll say the workers of other organization, that is the most important, that comes under diagonal communication. Okay, from manager to manager level, that is what? Horizontal. Okay, from subordinates to subordinates, horizontal. That means between your colleagues, horizontal. Faculty to faculty, horizontal. Student to student, horizontal. Okay, student to faculty, upward. Faculty to student, downward. Good. Now the last is grapevine communication, the most important and most interesting also, I will say. Grapevine communication, this happens between, normally in organization it happens. Okay, just imagine grapevine communication means, in short, if I say, it is kind of chat we do with our colleagues. Okay, so it may be grapevine communication. Somewhere we can say when we chit chat with others, in that case what we do, we are actually communicating some news from one person, that from where we have taken, and we send it to other person. Okay, so if I say the advantage of grapevine communication is that if you are giving some information to other person, and yes, one more thing that I want to add here, the other person may not be your, it's not necessary that he is your colleague or he is your boss. He may be some other person to whom you are just sharing your views, and to whom you love to share something which is happening in your life. So it comes in that way, grapevine communication. So as I was telling, the advantage of grapevine communication is that if you want to send any news in a proper way, then grapevine communication is very effective in that case. That means the news spreads very fast in this particular type of communication. What the disadvantage will be? The disadvantage is in grapevine communication is that the news that you get is not a proper news. That means you get some parts of the news, maybe right, maybe wrong. Okay, so that is the disadvantage of grapevine communication. I hope you all got what grapevine communication is actually, and let me know what it is. Okay, now this is the last part of communication, that is barriers to effective communication. These are all the barriers. There may be more barriers than this, but as I concluded, some of the most important barriers in effective communications are these. The first one here is linguistic barrier. Linguistic barrier means your language, the dialectic that we use. Okay, we all know that in India the dialect of a person changes from one kilometer to the other one. Okay, that means after every few kilometers the language, the dialect changes. So linguistic barrier is really an important barrier in case of effective communication. For example, if you don't know the language of that particular area, you may not be able to communicate with the people of a particular area. At least you should be aware of a particular language of a particular area if you want to sustain there, if you want to survive there. Second is psychological barriers. Those psychological barriers may be something which is in your mind, kind of you can say, if there is a kind of phobia, is kind of, you can say, some psychological problems are there. People have different kinds of fear when they actually communicate with other people. So that comes under psychological barriers. Those psychological barriers may be, for example, if I say your friend may speak very good in your company, that means in the company of friends, but if you ask him to go and speak in the stage, on the stage, so what happens? He have that fear, that is called stage fear. If he is having that stage fear, he will not be able to communicate howsoever good orator he is. Okay, so these are actually the psychological barriers. They have this thing in their mind that they will not be able to communicate in front of others if that particular things happens. Emotional barriers, yes, definitely this is also the most important thing. Emotions are there. If you are emotionally weak, then these barriers comes to communicate, kind of anxiety that happens when you are communicating with others. Okay, that is also important. So these are the barriers most important. Any kind of emotion, suppose you have some emotion for a particular situation, okay, then you will not be able to communicate properly with the other person. Sometimes it happens, we are so depressed, maybe the depression, maybe the anxiety we have, that we are unable to tell what problem do we have. Okay, this is what called emotional barriers. Physical barriers are there. Some physical barriers directly means something which is physical in nature. That means the tool of communication. Suppose you are communicating with the help of some tool, that means maybe a mobile phone and something, and if there is some problem in the network, then this comes under physical barrier. That means you want to communicate, but due to that physical thing you are unable to communicate with the other person. Okay, cultural barrier, we all know that different areas have different cultures. Okay, so communication becomes very weak if you are not adopting the culture of that particular area. Okay, then cultural barriers means every culture have different way of communicating. Okay, so you have to actually allow yourself to move to this particular culture if you want to communicate with the other person. Organizational structure barrier, when you are in the organization, then you have to deal with these kind of things. There are some structures in the organizations and you have to deal with that. That means communication barrier comes when if an organization you don't get the proper ways. For example, I am telling you, suppose you are working in an organization, okay, and you are not aware of how to communicate, that means how to tell, maybe how to send the notice, then that is actually a kind of barrier. because if you are not aware of how to send a notice, to whom you have to send a notice, then you are actually unable to communicate with your peers, with your boss and other things. So normally in organization these things happens, okay. That if a new person is there, or sometimes people are unaware of few things, like if I have this kind of problem, to whom I have to communicate this and how to communicate this. So it comes under organizational structure barriers. If an organization is very much open to its employees, then this organizational barriers actually, you can say, it may be removed in a, at least up to a certain limit. Next is attitude barrier. Attitude means if someone is having shyness, he or she may not be able to speak, okay. If a person is having some ego, he will not speak even if he wants to, okay. So these are actually the attitude barriers that is related to your attitude, the way you take the things. It may be an ego, it may be a kind of shyness, okay. So that comes under attitude barrier. Now comes to perception barriers. Perception barriers, different people have different perceptions of a particular one situation. This is the fact. Every person have their own perception of one situation. So according to that perception, they actually communicate. That means according to that perception, according to their own perception, they act. That is the important thing. So when they act according to their perception, then definitely one person is taking a particular situation in another way, the other person is taking it in another way. So that becomes a barrier sometimes if you are not communicating properly, okay. Technological barriers, lots of technological barriers are there nowadays. We can say the technology that we use to communicate, if that is not in a proper way, then there is that comes under technological barriers. For example, if there is a writer who wants to write, if its laptop is not working, he won't be able to write anything and send the written work to editors or to other persons. That is the technological barrier. Socio-religious barrier, we all know that human being is actually called a social animal, okay. That means people are there who are very much social, people are there who are not at all social. So there are two different things. Either you are very much social, or either you are not at all social. And these two, both the things are actually the barriers to effective communication. If there is something, if you are not